doing a joke where you think, this is okay, but now people will go, I'm sorry, but I think I've known someone with cancer. I've had cancer. Making a joke about cancer. You go, I'm not laughing at cancer, am I? I'm laughing at our fear. I'm laughing, and that's the hard thing about stand-up now. when my wife was pregnant with our youngest, I had extraordinary... she literally woke up with me standing on the bed going, he's coming through the ceiling. I had all these stress dreams.
Oh, before she'd given birth?
Before she'd given birth.
Yeah.
It was very hard for me.
It was. I know. I feel your pain.
Oh, and the birth was so traumatic.
Oh God, it was awful.
Are you okay now? Or do you want to talk about it?
Yeah. I'll tell you what, honestly, I have these conversations with people, with women as well, and they're like, was it though?
Yeah.
And like,
do you want to shut up though?
36 hours. I mean, it was just hell.
Well, yeah, we were talking about that the other day, weren't we? We were watching a film, and Shell was like, I don't remember any of this. And then found out it's because it was the year that she was either pregnant or had just given birth.
My wife forgets whole periods of her life because she was pregnant.
So traumatic.
That's good if there's been bad times.
Yeah, exactly.
There's things that you...
Yeah.
It's normally films. We'll watch a film and she's like, I've never seen this before. I said, well, we watched it in 2009. She was like, I was pregnant. So yeah. But Hal Cruttenden, thank you so much for joining us.
It's real pleasure.
Yeah, it's lovely to see you again. Comedy, funny old game, isn't it?
It is.
Sorry, I know.
He was practicing that in the car.
I definitely wasn't. But yeah, I'm just thinking like navigating it these days must be tricky because I mean you're prevalent online. You use Twitter or X, whatever it's called now, formerly known as Twitter. I'm
terrible. I just rant on Twitter now.
Yeah.
Whereas I do my performance pieces, I'm now starting to really try and do online stuff. So Instagram, Tik Tok, I'm on. My daughter laughs at me and goes, "It's for teenagers," and I go, "Look, there's enough older people that we all have to be on it as well." And it's, let's be honest, we're shoving this stuff out there not because it's for fun, but it's because it's becoming a really important avenue. So you have to do it. So you have to be producing little funny scenes. But that's also great. There's a kind of fantastic chaos to comedy now at the moment, and everybody's got their own little audience. So it's
and I guess you've got full autonomy over that stuff, haven't you? You can just put, I mean, I guess you have on your comedy routines anyway, but. Like just being able to put out stuff that you just think, well, that's just a bit of fun. I could do that.
Well, yeah, but except that I don't really trust myself either. So I still have my sister going, "Why'd you do that? You look like a wanker." You know what I mean? And I go, "Yeah, I don't trust my own judgment of myself."
Yeah.
And the things that you put out and go, "This is brilliant," nothing. This is so obvious, massive. I've had things where I thought that's a rubbish joke, and that's the biggest thing that people
interesting.
Look at.
Yeah.
Got
Says
no
a lot.
judgment.
Says a lot. Yeah,
really...
You've almost got to have someone that you trust that you can send these videos to before
I know.
to like vet them for you, so you're not going to regret it in 10 years.
Exactly. I should listen to my agent more. He is very good at going, this works, this doesn't. But that's the wonderful thing about live comedy is that you go out there and because actually whatever comics say, no one likes anything more. There is nothing anybody prefers to live comedy. There's no panel shows are far less enjoyable than doing a live show. Even I love acting and I also act as well. But the most exciting thing is that live audience, and because the great thing is they tell you immediately what's funny and what isn't. So when you're trying jokes out and you go, "Oh, that works," or "That doesn't," or "This is," and it is. I mean, it's just a thing that's addictive. I think stand-ups are just addicted to it, and I think it's really strange the stand-ups that stop doing it, and even when they get great careers, they've got movie things or TV things. I go, but how could you stop doing this?
Yeah, that's interesting because that does happen. Obviously, like people, their careers change and they evolve into that doing other things. But can you ever imagine yourself not doing stand-up comedy?
I don't think so. It was such a massive thing for me, and it's almost because, and I'm well known as a neurotic. I was a neurotic actor. I'm a neurotic stand-up. I'm well known as somebody who really goes, "I'm terrified of this, I'm really worried." And doing stand-up's the bravest thing I ever did. Because when I first did a gig, I was not till I was 27, and I did a gig, came off stage. I was so excited that I managed to get through my fear about it. To go. Because it's so worth it once you get through your fear, and I've had horrible times as well. But everybody has that. They get through the times of dying horribly or being booed off, or I've had awful things where someone stood so offended by something you've done. I was doing a corporate event and a woman just walked straight across the stage, and she'd obviously been through an issue that was something that I was joking about. That was very much my story, and she walked across the stage and it was the worst thing ever.
Wow.
It was because imagine you've just hit on someone's. You're doing a joke where you think this is okay, but now people will go, I'm sorry, but I think I've known someone with cancer. I've had cancer.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
make a joke
yeah.
about cancer. You go, I'm not laughing at cancer, am I?
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
laughing at our
Yeah,
fear.
yeah.
I'm laughing, and that's the hard thing about stand-up now, is that people decide what they're going to be offended by.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes my blood boil. Some of it I agree with. It all came from a good place. It all came from let's try not to make jokes about people because of their race or because of their sexuality. And I've done jokes I'm ashamed of. 10 years ago, I've done jokes that I've gone, that was a little bit homophobic, or that might have been a bit dodgy. And all that is great, but it's when people go, I'm sorry, but I'm really offended because my father died 2 weeks ago and you just mentioned death. You go, fuck off. Don't be here.
Yeah.
Don't be here. Because we're talking about things that are usually universal fears, or, things that the best comedy comes from the worst times. It's like, I'm getting a divorce gave me a new show. So you have to talk about
It's got to see upside
congratulations.
My wife said it to me about 10 minutes after she left me. She went, "You can do a show about this." He went, "Oh, of course I'm bloody out."
I'm writing it now.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll
So I was frantically making a note on my phone.
Yeah.
But
Oh man, it's so true. I've always said, if people choose to be offended, what you're offended by is a choice for the most part. And if it doesn't feel like it's a choice, then it's not. You're not offended. You're just upset because of something that's going on in your life. You know, like I said this to my friend because he was saying, "Oh, I always used to laugh at jokes about suicide, and now I'm offended by it because my best mate committed suicide." I was like, "Well, you're not offended by it then. You're just grieving." There's a big difference there.
it's reminded you of your situation, and so you feel bad. You could have come across that in a movie, but somehow, because people are laughing, people take that as an offensive thing. And actually, that laughter, the best laughs are about the biggest pain, are about the things that we're most scared of. I love jokes about death. I go on and on about. I'm far too obsessed with death, and yeah, it really. I mean, I used to do a joke in my last tour show. I did something about that because it really does annoy me. Going, "Oh, sorry, so were you upset by the cancer thing? How were you about the terrorist joke? Because there's people who've lost people to terrorism. How were you about that?
Yeah.
You don't pick because that, but also I know I can't be that angry because that's someone who's in pain. But you have to just go. I know you're in pain, but you could have run into that. You could have walked into the shop and overheard a conversation. You can't take against the comic. The most unbelievable thing I saw in Edinburgh last year, Ed Byrne doing a show about his brother's death.
Oh
It is one of the best stand-up things I've ever seen. It's brilliant.
Yeah.
And it's about his brother. There's warnings all over the place. You go in.
Yeah.
It's about his brother's death. It's about Paul Byrne's death, who's a lovely man who worked in comedy and things. And a woman took offence.
Oh, for
She
God's
actually
sake.
went, "Sorry, I've got to go. This is really triggering for me," and I'm really blamed him. And he was,
This is mine.
It's an advert about it was.
Yeah,
And the
yeah.
audience was like, "How can you be that?" Just the self. I mean, I'm self-obsessed as a stand-up, but oh my God, we're a society that walks around going, "I need to show you my pain." We all have pain. God,
Yeah, of course.
I was talking to my sister on the way here, and she went, "Don't be horrible on this podcast." And I've started getting angry.
No,
too
it's
many
good.
coffees
That's what we
today.
want. We want it.
Yeah.
We want it.
No, but it's true though, and like to be fair, I think that when it comes to people being offended by stuff, I find it's often the people that haven't gone through as much shit that are more offended, and the people that, I'm just thinking about like my brother and my dad both worked, my dad was a firefighter and my brother was an undertaker, so they both dealt with death every single day, and they found it hilarious. They still make jokes about it.
Like,
Yeah, they did, and they used to come home and be like, "Oh, it was good to see you earlier at the suicide."
Oh my God!
Yeah, genuinely, like they would be at like some road collisions together, and my brother would be like scraping the body off the floor.
high-fiving each other.
Yeah, and they were, and the fire service and the undertakers and probably the police, they're the most jovial places because you deal with such terrible things. You have to have comedy, you have to have humour.
Yeah.
Because if you can't, what a miserable life to live, just surrounded by death and misery, So
I know. And and for so many years, those jobs. I think that is a thing where you really need sensitivity to those jobs because apparently PTSD is so massive in
Huge, yeah.
those- I was reading an article about a policeman that it was just one car crash too many or something. And I think the children had died or something, and That was it. It was like he had to he'd seen so much, and then it was just so many dead bodies. And I mean, I don't know, the dead bodies I've seen have all been, well, Lenin in Moscow when I was 17. But apart from that, it's all been mum, dad, grandparents.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
And that's the first time you see. We don't see many dead bodies.
No.
And these people are seeing them all the time, and horrifically seeing them when they've, It's,
Yeah. No, my brother told me a story once that the Undertakers wear those big black hats. And as a joke once, they stuck a big comical like flower out the top of one of them and forgot that they did it. And the guy was chatting to the family at a funeral and stuff, and they were all like, "Oh, we forgot the flower on it." Oh, fuck it, it's fine. They're just laughing in the way, and just like silly pranks like that and stuff. But yeah, like you've got to have that, because otherwise you just lose your bloody mind, wouldn't you?
It is true. I must admit, your brother and dad work in those two jobs that I could never complain about. Like, I think undertakers generally do such an amazing job. They are so respectful. I've never been to a funeral and seen them mess up, apart from the story you've just said about the flower. And also, firemen are so nice. Do you know, I was once in a house, I mean, this is really bad to be admitting this, in my 20s, a long time ago, and there'd been some drugs going on. I can't be done for this. No, I was.
No, you'll be fine.
I
Isn't there
didn't
like
buy
a
them. I wasn't
statute
dealing.
of
This
limitations?
is post-Lenin.
Yeah, this is somebody the telly had caught fire. Somebody had fallen asleep with candles in the telly, and I was in this room upstairs. It was like a weird flat where you went up to a room upstairs, and we were all a bit out of it. And I went to this bedroom. So the guy was away, and I was sleeping in his room. And basically, this telly caught fire. Guy caught it, and if the smoke filled really fast, the room. The guy got the telly, walked out with it, and went outside, and he got a bit burnt as well. But somebody else, I mean, he didn't badly burnt, and the other two got out, and they all went out. The fire brigade arrived, did it all, and I'm in this room upstairs, and they went, "Get everybody out," and they all went, "Hal's still in there." I got woken by a fireman. Opened the door, going, "Excuse me, mate, just follow me through. There's been a bit of a fire." And he went, "We're okay."
Bit of a fire.
No smoke in my room. I walked out and literally had to hold on to him because I couldn't see through the smoke. Got outside, and these firemen were so nice to us, and we were 20s, and there was drug paraphernalia. Not serious drugs, but there was a lot of things, and they didn't tell us off.
Yeah,
and we got them out, and we were idiots, and someone had
throwing them back in just in the flames.
Yeah,
don't worry about that, lads.
But they were so.
Yeah.
They were really sort of. I mean, maybe they'd get into trouble for not reporting us for drug. No,
Yeah,
it was not
yeah.
like there was any drug, but it was just like, I don't know if I've given away for too much on this. Anyway, but I love podcasts because I just get into chatting.
I cannot wait for the headlines after this airs.
No, but
Hal's been arrested.
But
That's
we
good.
set fire to a telly because some idiot was off his face. He just let a candle burn, and no one was made to feel bad. And I thought, God, firemen are so nice.
They don't care. They're busy scraping bodies off railway
That's
stations.
probably a nice gig.
Yeah, exactly.
You're like, oh, just a few druggies.
They're all alive. They've been a bit silly. It's a TV that's burned.
Yeah.
That's fine. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, like the stories my dad used to tell me. I will say though, it was growing up with like a neurotic dad who has seen so much death and like my brother once told me of all the people that he's collected, so to speak, in car accidents, it's all 18 or 17 to 25-year-old men, never a woman, never a girl, always young men. So my brother was like, never get in the car with a young man. You just live in constant fear because
Same
they've
with
seen
house
everything.
fires. It's generally just young men, isn't it?
Yeah.
But didn't because women used to be able to get cheaper car insurance, and now it's not allowed, is it, or something?
Is it not allowed anymore?
I don't. Maybe it is allowed. Maybe it is.
Yeah, because there was this whole advert. I remember the advert. Do you remember there was an advert about women drivers? It was like some pink insurance or something.
Oh,
Tried
was
to
it? Yes.
cash in on that.
It might be that it's
Interesting.
allowed. I'm sure I said that then you're not allowed to discriminate or something anymore, even though it's quite obvious men are more dangerous drivers.
Yeah.
But my ex-father-in-law, so my ex's father was in the fire brigade in Northern Ireland, and I used to say to him that going, I was quite fancy because he was fire brigade Northern Ireland, London Derry during the Troubles. So this
I
is
was going to
70s,
say,
80s. This
must have
is
seen
busy.
some
I
stuff.
never say, exactly. I never say to him,
never out of work.
that you'd go to fires and you'd be attacked by the
my
you're trying to put
God.
out a fire that starts, and bomb thing. My God, I sit there telling bomb stories.
Wow.
But I remember saying that to him, going, the thing I like about the fire brigade is always thinking, aren't there some really nice quiet nights where you just play cards? He went, Not in Derry in the 70s.
Jesus, yeah. My favourite thing about growing up the firefighter was that when he cooked for us, he couldn't switch out of the mentality of cooking for 30 firemen, like, you know, because he'd do shift work. So he'd be like, right, dinner's ready, and it would be like 70 omelettes, and they would all taste like methane, and we'd all be sat there like,
Sounds delicious.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Oh dear.
But it's interesting what you were saying about, obviously, you know, you've been through some personal things yourself, and like it fueling your comedy, and like is the comedy, obviously the comedy's a bit of an outlet for you.
It is. You really have to. I think you have to judge it very carefully, because audiences don't. They will laugh at dark things, but it's cushioned within, so they don't want the absolute. Let me tell you exactly how bad things are. I mean, what you do when you're doing a tour show is you tend to do lots of laughs. Then I tend to like to have some sort of serious point where, because you really feel connected to people about that feeling of God, what was I used to do? I can't remember my last tour show. Only stopped a little while ago. Yeah, so you can sort of hint at the dark things, and especially if there's a good joke at the end. I like to go if there's a very long story about something terrible, and then there's a punchline at the end still. But I think some comedians can be so good that they start believing that everybody's going to be interested in everything they say, even when they stop being funny. And I'm trying not to be that. And I know some of the best comics, and they're not famous people, but I know a guy who is very politically active, a little bit of a sort of conspiracy theorist,
Interesting.
but is so funny, and then used to destroy a room, and then would start going into conspiracy theories, and people would literally gradually get up and leave.
God.
I went, oh, you've fallen for that thing I must never do, of going, just because they're listening to you, they're listening to you because your job is still to be funny. It's not, and let me tell you some truths.
Yeah,
And
I've got you now.
Yeah.
And I think
Interesting.
I never want to be, but so I find talking about, because I've always done a lot on my parents. My parents died. I mean, my mum died 10 years ago. My dad died fairly young, when I was like, I know your mum died when you were a kid.
When I was 6.
Yeah, which is, I mean, that is a classic comics upbringing.
Yeah.
For some reason, loads of comics. Well, but I remember being in a dressing room once, and someone went, "Yeah, my dad died when I was 4." I went, "My dad died when I was 20." That still counts. Someone went, "I was 26." I went, "Guys, we're pushing this idea now."
Wow.
But,
yeah. 30?
That's still, that's still
Am I an
normalish.
orphan if I'm 45?
But people, I think, Eddie Izzard say they would. Mum died.
Yeah.
And
Interesting.
but so I'm always interested in jokes about that. I'm always interested in jokes, and also that thing of I think someone said, I think Dawn French had a similar thing about that thing of oh God, I'm zipping around. I'm probably ADHD. Every
Join the
comic
club.
Well, isn't it just comedian ADHD now? Everybody is
You're classic.
everybody autistic. Yeah,
Just any creative.
it just reminded me of something about parents dying when relatively young. Because for me, at 20 felt very sudden. My dad was younger than I was when he died, and that feeling for the rest of your life that something terrible could happen tomorrow. I'm always slightly preparing for something. My kids say I've spoken far too much about my own death to them. Far too much, almost preparing them. Almost because when I die, you got to remember and I don't mean to, but it's in my mind. Okay, all that, and I think so. I think it's on my mind so much. It's almost a thing of it does fuel creativity because it's also people are really scared of it, and things that people are scared of is where comedy is. So I think it is a release of tension as soon as you bring it up. So sorry, was that what was the original question?
Well, that was it. Like,
Honestly, I love a podcast because it's like, an excuse to talk about me for hours. And my coffee's, I've had a flat white and it's
what we'll do is we'll edit it so it will put a little bit of Giles saying to you, "What are your thoughts about death?" And then you'll look like you're on. You're on point.
So what do you think about it? No,
Yeah.
no, it's true though, and I think I've always tried to look at the lighter side of stuff, having lost both my parents at a young age.
So, how old was your dad when you?
I was 20 when my dad died. So yeah.
God, so that was like second.
So I was an orphan quite early. Yeah. But again, like my dad's funeral was like it was quite funny. It was weird and surreal, and like his mum, my nan, had dementia, and she was like, she was going around saying, "Is his mother here?"
Oh, God.
Which is and I remember thinking, it's like double whammy of tragedy here, really. But great, but actually fantastic that she thinks that because she had no idea, so it's great.
Hilarious.
Did you find? I found this. I mean, I don't think when you're a little kid it is like this, but I find the funeral of someone close to you is one of the best days of those days after they've died, of the weeks after they've died. It's one of the best.
Sure.
And yet for everybody visiting, it's kind of, if you're anybody comes to the funeral who isn't that close but does want to come, it's always a bit of a, I don't want to mess them up. No, this is a great day because everyone's there. And it's everybody's chat.
You've seen all those people that you haven't seen for years, and they say, "Oh, I haven't seen you since you were I haven't seen you since 1979."
Exactly.
It's like that story Giles just reminded me of when we went. This was years ago when we were teenagers. We went to visit my granddad in a nursing home, and he had dementia and wasn't making much sense. Anyway, long story short, we went to sign in on the guest book before we went in. And my brother wrote down Les, his name is Les, but he spelt it L-E-Z. And for some reason, we were crying with laughter, like all three of us. Just the kids went, and we were like doubled over in the reception, and then the woman came out and was like, "Are you here to see your dying grandfather?" We were all like, "Yeah, sorry, give us a minute." You'll never guess what John just did. It's just so stupid.
It's just, I remember before my dad's funeral. I don't know why we did this because I've carried lots of coffins and it's not very hard. But we went into the undertakers and there was a group of us who went, "Should you have a little practice?" And those of us who were going to carry the coffin were all there. We went,
rehearsal.
We should just sit. Maybe in 1990 it was rarer to do this.
Was there differentiations in heights?
There were. There was my dad's cousin, very tall.
Because you don't want it to be like this, do you?
Yeah.
Like
one person in high
we're
heels,
So we did a little practice and we carried my dad's coffin around, and my sisters started getting hysterical with laughter. And I find all that hysterical. It was those days after. I mean, I think my dad's death was so shocking because it was the first time that somebody really close to me had died, and I was 20. And I remember a friend of mine says that her parents came over. She was like a friend of the family. They came over and they came out and went, "It is a bit weird because they are getting hysterical all the time." We were spending a lot of time laughing, lots of time getting just hysterical jokes about things, and it was a little bit traumatized. But that is. I mean, it is a bit. Maybe that's where I got the bug for comedy.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe that's the thing.
But I suppose it's cathartic, isn't it? Like laughter's cathartic, and then I suppose like putting a different spin on those difficult times is a way of kind of dealing with it a little bit.
But it also feels. I do like the way comedy feels like going. It is this sort of breaking the rules. Even when you're seen like me, I'm not seen as a edgy comic. I'm one of the few comics that thinks they're really edgy and nobody else does. No reviewer's ever gone, "Hal, I think this'll get them. This'll get me in trouble." No, Hal, no.
Yeah.
But it's what's the word? It's subversive. It is about subverting the norm. I can't bear. I mean, I wouldn't remember it from before I did comedy. When you say something, people go, "Really, can't really say that, can you?" And in comedy dressing rooms, you just feel like there isn't a thing that's wrong to say because these are people that are all looking for how can we subvert things. There's a real freedom to it. And as long as you can make people laugh, it's incredibly satisfying to go, "Do you know, I mean, God, I didn't even get a big laugh on this, but I think I went on stage around Christmas and went, Christmas is really the time when you regret agreeing to be a godparent." And even that, which is not really a big thing, of going, "God, that's terrible that's now on a podcast." But I love all my godchildren. You do go, "Which one's like, oh God, that one I don't know that one." I probably was asked to be godparent too many times because people thought I was going to be very famous.
We'll get great gifts from him.
As soon as you're on the up.
Yeah, it happened to Bruce Forsyth apparently. But I remember Bruce Forsyth saying that somebody came up to him and said, "You're actually my godfather." He went, "Am I?" Because he was godfather. Because so many people went, "Bruce, could you be the godfather?" Because people are trying to. Because he was young and his career was on the up, and they thought, "I think he's going to be a major star."
Wow.
Do you know,
Parents'
the choosing of
priorities.
godparents is an interesting one because I had my 2 godparents were. I think one of them was like this French lady that they met on holiday.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I'm not joking.
Oh my
Madame something. They didn't. I don't think they even knew her first name.
Was that one of your
Madame
was that,
Jacques?
was that from one of your dad's many trips? To
I'm
France
sure it was one of
to,
my dad's many trips. Yeah, probably a booze cruise. But yeah, so random people that you just never even met in my life. Really. But yeah.
Yeah, it's like people choosing their best man at their wedding or their bridesmaids, and then in 10
you're
years'
not going to see them again.
Yeah, it's like, wow, I haven't seen him since that incident.
Well, life does change so much, doesn't it? You make these sort of epic decisions. And
Yeah.
God, I was just thinking, my best man's in France. I haven't seen him for 10 years.
Right. So there you go.
Yeah.
You see.
Hi, Craig.
Not so much the best man anymore, right?
Yeah. But do you know, that's a funny thing looking back at like those big events. I mean, like funerals, obviously we don't take pictures of. Although I've noticed people have started doing
Oh,
that.
that's weird.
Right.
Somebody
that's weird.
videoed the service at my mum's funeral. It was a nice thing to do because I stormed it. I did the.
Did you do the eulogy? Did you?
I was the last.
It's my best gig I've ever done.
I got a round of applause at a funeral. No, I didn't. I wrote it and went. And I think as a comic, you forget how much you say unintentionally funny things all the time. Because I thought this isn't funny enough, but it's what I feel about my mum. And it got lots. I mean, I said some things that. I said one thing that I was very proud of that I thought was quite funny. Considering I'm by my mum's coffin, and I went, my dad died obviously, my dad died 20 years before, and absolutely that was such an incredibly strong relationship, and mum never had another relationship after him. Though, if anybody knows different, now's the time to drop a bombshell. It was the idea of some man going, yes, actually.
Yeah, sorry.
I had a brief thing with her, sorry. But I can't remember what it was I was saying. Someone said to me, there were things that were so spectacularly inappropriate. Like, I was talking about my mum was incredibly lovely about not having any expectations. So I called her from uni and went, I'm going to get a 2-2. My degree's not going well. It's not good. And she went, oh, you're going to pass. And I told this story at the funeral. That I went, for the record, I did get a 2-1. And they're going, no one cares.
I've just got to put that out there.
It's just you sort of disappear into your thing. But that also, that's another tough thing, actually, about being a comic, is that you're always expected at those functions, he'll be funny.
Yeah, exactly.
Funny man.
Do you get? I was going to say, do you get asked to do that?
Yes.
Perpetually asked to be best man.
Yeah, and I've done because my dad's not alive. I've done 2 speech. Well, one of my sisters has been divorced once, and married again. She's married twice, so I did it. The father of the bride and the father of the bride for my older sister. Well, they didn't always go. They were okay. It depends what I'm allowed to say. When I'm given free rein, I go,
Yeah.
But the scariest one I did was a friend of mine, Al Barry. Do you know Alistair Barry, comedian?
I know the name, but
Yeah, he's on. You'll know him on Twitter. He is. I was best man at his wedding, and I went, yeah, brilliant, thanks, Al. And then I went, it's full of comics, and I've got to do the best man speech.
Tough.
And it was
tough gig.
it was compared by Mick Ferry. He's a brilliant comic from. So this is the artist in the speeches. I was so frightened because Mick's on. He's brilliant as compare. And then Father of the Bride, who wasn't a comic, was actually really funny as well.
Yeah,
then
that's
Al
annoying, isn't it?
wasn't just funny as the groom, but moving, funny and moving. And then I went up and just ripped him apart and it went well. But
good.
But
Yeah.
it's pathetic that as comics we're all looking at each other and you are competing. And
Yeah.
we've ruined many a special day with our needs to go well.
Oh man, but you're a funny person off air, off screen, off stage as well. But
I don't know. I have my moments.
You do get a lot of comedians though that in their personal life they're just like, I can't be arsed with all the making jokes and stuff, and then they're actually quite boring, really.
I often think becoming a comic makes you more boring. I think it makes you more boring in your personal life. I think I was funnier socially before I was a comic. Because as a comic, I go, I need to put that in my phone. That's something. That's a bit there. I don't know. I don't know what it is. I mean, because comics aren't necessarily... I mean, this is the thing. It's like being a magician, isn't it? It's like you're pretending that you are this hysterically funny person. And there's not many that are. I remember hearing that on a comedian's podcast and going, that's such a good point. I think it was Sean Walsh with a comic called Stephen Grant, and they were doing a podcast. I don't know, it wasn't Stephen. No, it was Stephen Grant talking about something. Sorry, Stephen Grant. Stuart Goldsmith is a comic, does a podcast, and Stephen Grant was on it, and he made a point that I went, I've never thought about that. He went, there's so few comics that are naturally comedic people, hysterical all the time. And he said, there's probably about 3. And I went, yeah, there's someone like Daniel Kitson, who walks into a room and is just will be funny. Eric Morecambe sounds like he really was always funny. But loads of other comics, it's very constructed. And no one wants to hear that. They want to believe that you are Mr. Hilarious all the time. I mean, God, that happens with dating as a middle-aged comic. And people go, oh, this will be hilarious. Go, no, stop it.
Have you experienced that then?
I just think sometimes, from my very brief flirtations on dating apps, if people recognise me, and they go, oh, I love you. I go, oh, no, it's not. No, I'm very deep and dark and serious. And
Yeah.
I'm not.
If anything I'll get out of this is a few laughs.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know that thing of. I don't know. It's the reason why comics, when a cab driver says to you, or an Uber driver, or whatever, says, what do you do? And you just don't want to answer that.
No,
Yeah.
tell us a joke.
Yeah. I'll tell you what I think about comedy. Tell you what I like.
Yeah.
I'll tell you I've got some material for you.
Yeah, exactly. And actually, I always say when someone goes, "Oh, this will be funny to you. You could use this," and you go, "Do you know, I've never used anything."
Yeah, I'll stop you there because I've had quite a lot of material thrown my way. I've not used any of it.
It's just because the funniest stuff is actually I'll make a joke about the fact that you think that I can make a joke about the fact that you know it's And because I've got to surprise you, it can't. People tend to think that they know what comedy is. That's actually quite hard as well. Doing a job where people think they know what it is, they think they know what it's like, and they think they've got very strong opinions about it. That's why it'd be great to be a doctor or something, a surgeon, where people go, oh, that's all,
I mean, in those situations, like you're saying, like when you're in a cab or an Uber or something, and someone does ask you that, do you deflect? Do you say, do you say, oh, I'm a painter and decorator or something like that? Do you?
No.
To be honest, a painter and decorator is probably not going to be getting an Uber, but but I'm not. Do you? Are you honest?
I will
in those
say
moments?
I sort of do comedy stuff.
Yeah,
it's sort of what I say, and then people think if they don't recognise you. Another thing, if people don't recognise you and you're a comic, they think that you can't make a living. So they think, oh my God, you poor thing. This guy's having something great. Because
I'll give you a bit off the fare, don't worry.
Yeah, they literally think there's 30 comics in the world and they've parcelled up all the telly and they're the ones that tour, and they don't realise that there are, I don't know how many comedians there are, but it's thousands who aren't famous, who are making a fine living. And I have semi-fame. I still have that thing of, I was in a pub the other night. A guy goes, you're a comedian, aren't you? And I love that. So I get it. I get it maybe 2 or 3 times a week. If someone knows my name, oh my God, I nearly kiss them. If someone goes, Hal Cruttenden, I go, thank you. Because I have that face. It's like the thing of people go, I know your face. And I'm just trying
I've seen Live at Apollo, I'm sure.
So it's very funny. My sister has almost exactly the same level of fame. If actually a bit more, they will know, because she's an actress she's in Not Going Out, or she's in Benidorm, and you'd know her face.
Oh, cool.
But often they go, she gets it the whole time. Oh, hello. Do I know you from whatever? Because she's got one of those faces. It's a real.
Yeah, interesting. I feel like because I think if people think if they're funny, they could be a comedian. Yeah. And you get Mr. Funny, like likes to try and make everyone laugh, and then it's just like secretly probably thinking, oh, I could be a comedian. And if you like comedy and you think you're funny and you go to see a show, you probably are sitting there thinking, like, oh, I could do this, piece of piss,
totally.
kind of thing.
Totally. I think particularly men.
Yeah.
It's a real, men have this, and we still live in that sort of society. We think that we've got a balance between the way men and women are expected to be, but actually, it's funny doing corporate events, and they go, "There's hardly any women. Do whatever you want." You go, "Oh my God, what era are you from?" The best audience is women.
I mean, obviously, I'm going to be doing all the sexist stuff.
No, exactly. But as though men are defensive.
Yeah.
They are always the ones that, I say corporate event because corporate events are the things that are hardest for us to do, even though I would like to point out that I do very, very well at them.
Yeah. And I'm available.
I love being really honest on podcasts and going, let's try not to damage my career. But it's always blokes who've got their back and don't turn around. It's always them who go, oh, I don't know if I... and men want to be connoisseurs of comedy, and women just go, just interested. Oh, is this funny? Yeah. Men are such... There are so many men, especially the sort of old style men, men think they have to be these social entertainers. And they're from that... And they do tend to be older. It's from the generation of, people who think men are the entertainers and women are there to be beautiful. It's like that sort of... And there's still slightly that in society because you very rarely get the same judgment from women of comics that you do from men, because men do think, oh, I'm the funny one in the office. And you go, look, those people. The reason you're the funny one in the office is you've got your own jokes. Our skill is, we'll make you laugh and we don't know you. And we don't know your group. We don't know anybody. But,
Yeah, and often you've put together a whole performance. It's not just going on stage and just cracking jokes willy-nilly.
Exactly.
I suppose, do you get, when you've got men sitting there with their arms crossed and they're sort of almost like, try me. Yeah. And they're either hoping you come to them so they can try and tear you down. Yeah. Or they're like, don't you fucking dare come near me. Do you get more male hecklers, or is it drunk women that tend to do that?
I don't know. I'm trying to think about... men are usually crueler with their heckles. Interesting. Over the years, I get heckled less now than I used to. I'd say heckling's... But that might be a thing of doing nicer gigs. I'm not doing so many clubs Friday, Saturday nights. I tend to do clubs during the week. I do gigs at the weekends, but I tend to do like tour gigs but things during the week tend to be like Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday's nice time to do clubs because it's a comedy crowd. Friday and Saturday they've got out to get pissed and they've gone to a club. So you feel like it's a less interesting gig at the weekend usually, but it can be lovely. It can be absolutely lovely. I don't know. Heckling is... I think men are more brutal because most men, we still live in a world where men believe that they don't have any emotional depth at all. So it's like, you could say, so as a man, you will get shouted at for being fat. Years ago, I used to always have comments about my sexuality. So I had to do jokes about my sexuality. But that was like 20 years ago. People do it less now. But also that thing of, though it's as though it's a terrible thing. You know what I mean? So all those... I don't know. All those things are. You do tend to have that, but also you get so experienced that you really do have that feeling of, and you can't even tell what it is. It's to do with your attitude, because I always think, I don't know why I do so much better than I did 20 years ago, 25 years ago when I started. But it is also an attitude of going, I've just done this thousands of times. And it's like the old comic comeback to a heckler going, and you go, now look, and comics often go, you hear them sometimes going, this is your first time doing this. And I'm really experienced. Really but often so much you are just pointing out what's in the room. You're just pointing out something about them, pointing something out about their situation or whatever. I don't know. I tend to be, the longer I've gone on, and the older I've got, the more I've become, I tend to go out to the audience. So because I've just done a show about divorce, a woman messaged me yesterday that her marriage really did break up, and I was trying to break up their marriage during my show. Oh wow. But I don't know, but it was a joke. I was going, well, that's my work is done. But because the theme of my show is basically, look, because my marriage ended after 23 years, you're not safe, none of you. And all the people who think, I'm 25 years, it's going to be fine. No, you are the growth area for divorce. And then hers really did break up. I went, sorry.
Wow, that's mildly terrifying.
Yeah, but that thing of... so I tend to kind of involve people. I tend to be far more interactive than I used to be. But it is in a fun way. I'm not really digging up their relationship and getting them to row and stuff. But...
apart from this one couple.
No, but it was funny. She seems quite happy about it.
Okay, so yeah. It was,
maybe I helped. It was
It's an intervention.
Yeah, you keep telling yourself that,
That's interesting though. Like, do you prefer that kind of having that full on interaction as opposed to just sort of doing the routine?
But the thing is, the idea of it scares me. I'm quite a neurotic person, as I said. The idea of going out and chatting to people in an audience scares me. But I do it the whole time on set. People say you're one of the most interactive comics. So I don't go, I don't know what it is. I love that thing of becoming a different person on stage. And maybe that's what the experience is. That the longer you go, the more you go, look, I'm going to become that person on stage. And there's that person who is far more outspoken than I am, far more opinionated, and there's a freedom, and you've actually just stepped into that character. So you are, I don't know. I think that's the thing actually that I would explain to myself going, because I still do shows where I'm scared. You go, but once you're on stage, you're not actually going to be scared. If a show starts going badly and people aren't laughing, the thing I'm controlling is anger. It's weirdly the thing I'm controlling is not you hate me. My thing I'm controlling is you don't know. This is brilliant, and because that character on stage is, I have to become somebody else to do it, and I love being that person.
You should give him a name.
Yes.
You should name him and then step into him every time you go on stage.
Well, Bruce Forsyth. I keep talking about Bruce Forsyth because we used to share a manager years ago. I never met him. But my manager always said, "Oh, Bruce." He was like, Bruce Forsyth used to say he used to do a little skip for doing a show,
and then he was in.
So he'd be nervous Bruce off stage being and then a little skip, and now I'm showbiz Bruce.
Showbiz Bruce. I
don't know if he called it that, but
he
said that thing about that little skip, and I've become the other person, and it's true that actually. You just go into a different mindset, and maybe because the main thing about comedy is you'd have to do stage time. I know comics who were brilliant when they were young and have got loads of TV and loads of acting. Where I know someone who's got loads of acting, done less stand-up, and I look at him now and go, you'd be a much better... I mean, he's making masses doing it, but you'd be a better stand-up if... you'd just done more time because you were brilliant. And he'll probably still do more time and get better again if he wants to. But that's the thing that makes a difference. It's just being on stage so much that everything's happened. I mean, I've done, the way you get out of situations where, I'm always picking on other single middle-aged men, and I'll say to the guy, oh, you got divorced. No, my wife died. And that's happened to me about 5 times. And you find a way out of it. And you all just go, oh, and that tension's beautiful because then you have a moment to break. And it sounds awful, but you do break it by going, how dare you try and ruin my show with your dead wife? I've got laughs from that. And he's laughing. I'm going, come on, I can't, but you, because you just have that experience of going, we're just in playtime now. Nothing, I can't really hurt you because life has hurt you. Do you know what I mean? Being inappropriate. It's all about me being inappropriate is the laugh. But I've got verbal diarrhea.
No, it's good, man. I'm going to say, obviously your stage you and your personal you, do you ever find that those things blur at all? Or are you very much like, Hal, who's not performing is there ever a crossover? Do you find that you maybe in your personal life you start to become more of the...
I think I might be during this podcast. More stage me.
Because you were being a proper diva before we started as well.
Yeah.
You threw that chair.
Yeah, I was. Very, very difficult.
Really weird.
I'm sorry, I took you really seriously.
Yeah.
Did I? Just give me
I don't remember doing that, but yeah.
I don't know. I always think that especially when I was younger, I found social situations terrifying. Maybe it's just age. I keep thinking I am better socially. You can throw me in things and I'll cope with it because my mindset is like...
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Do you think you go into sort of a state of fight or flight slightly? And it's almost like an adrenaline that keeps you going. It's like people that do public speaking. Once you're up there, your brain starts to be able to pull out all this information that you didn't even know was in there because you go into, or if you're in a job interview or something, you start reading off all this vocabulary.
Yes, you do. Yeah, you do. You exactly. There is a flow to it, and certainly that's very hard to practice stand-up without the laughs, without being live. I often go, "What's my next bit? What's my next bit?" And yet on stage, you're going to it and also just the comments you make. And there's people that I would just not. I'm so familiar with people doing. I've done things. I did Labour Party conference 10 years ago when Ed Miliband was leader. It was 2011, and I have a bit of a thing about politicians, as in, I'm so in awe of them. They're like rock stars to me. I mean, I must admit, I'm of the left, but I actually admire anybody that goes into it a little bit, okay? And I would admit, this is going to make me very unpopular. I did a Have I Got News for You with Jacob Rees-Mogg. Before he got any
the person that popped into my head, actually. I was thinking, you can't surely mean him.
This was when Jacob Rees-Mogg was a hilarious backbencher. Before the time when people like Nadine Dorries were
Yeah.
hilarious backbenchers, and before
Yeah.
we got so down the drain that these people became cabinet ministers.
Yeah.
And even there, I was like, even those of the right, I would meet them and go, oh, because I so admire anybody who puts themselves up for that sort of abuse, and just the dislike that. I mean, I think it's kind of responsible for why our politics has gone down the drain.
Yeah.
Because we have a media that just goes, it's like the idiot at a party. Oh, politicians, they're all liars. And you go, that's exactly why we vote liars in now. Because
Yeah.
people like you think they're all liars.
Yeah.
So people go, well, they all lie, so might as well have Boris and Donald.
Yeah,
and,
well, is that- yeah.
It's that utter blanket just dismissal of people who actually, loads of them work incredibly hard, doing for probably not the right amount of money they should be paid. This is, I swear it gets controversial. Put this clip out and I'll get hate.
It'd be great. It'd be great for TikTok.
Yeah. but I did this Labour Party conference, and everybody, I've got Harriet Harman next to me and Ed Balls, and I'm doing a joke about Tony Blair at the end. They really loved it. It was a bit of a ripping apart of Tony Blair, only 4 years after he'd stopped being leader, and he wasn't there. But I was like inside, but on stage I was like, yeah, you just have to go, yeah.
Interesting.
You have to walk out and go, I'm not frightened of you. I'm not like that. I'm sorry. Because that's the only way to survive. You actually do have no option than to. I mean, it's like everybody, isn't it? You're an actor. You can't walk on stage and go and be shy. You have to fully inhabit a character. You have to take risks. Exactly the same with stand-up, and that's. See, this is another thing. I've driven here going, I don't know what I think about anything. And then I get loads of very strong opinions once you ask me.
Very political. I was thinking that earlier when you were like, I've got some opinions about firefighters and policemen. I was like, wow, I could say anything at this stage. Yeah. So I guess, would you go so far as saying that it becomes a bit of like an adrenaline junkie thing, like you're chasing that high, especially when it goes well and the crowd loves it.
Yeah.
I mean,
I know I've said this before, but the first gig I did was in the late 90s in a tiny room beneath an Italian restaurant, I think, in Notting Hill, at a club called Crock of Wit. 30 people sitting on benches at the bottom downstairs. And I went on, and I still walked off going, the first time, and I've never matched it. And I've done short sets at the O2.
Yeah.
I've done Channel 4 Comedy Gala, which is 16,000 people. I've done the Albert Hall for Teenage Cancer Trust, 5,000 people, or just the Palladium, 3 or 4, the Apollo, 3,000 or 4,000. But still, that first time, you're still chasing that same feeling of going, things that I thought up did that to people. It is a power thing. It's why you shouldn't let these comedians near politics. I know Zelensky in Ukraine is a comedian, but it is that like, wow, I've got, it's such a buzz. And it's a buzz because you've created it from nothing. And I came from an acting background where I went to drama school and, what part have I got? I'm playing and I'm in a group and somebody else has written it and somebody else has directed you. And that's lovely. But for the really self-obsessed, power-mad person, the thing of going, it's all me. And that gives, I think I'm in a stage of my life because maybe because I'm in my 50s and I'm feeling old and a little bit trying to G myself up, and I've had some tough few years recently, and I keep realising the things that really big me up, and I go, God, I wrote something for radio, I wrote my sitcom for Radio 4, and even when you're doing those shows and that you're on that Apollo, you are creating and doing that. You're filling TV or radio, and so I just have moments of I know that seems like an obvious thing, but it's like, and I'm only doing it in little parts, but it's like the thing of going, God, I created that from nothing and created entertainment that millions watched is huge.
Yeah. You should have like a credit roll at the end of your shows.
Yes.
And it's like directed by, written by, sound effects by.
Yes.
Just like
It's all me.
Yeah.
It's all-
A round of applause for each one as well, please.
Though having said that, my daughters are quite increasingly going, we should have a credit for this, because quite often they do something that makes me, that I get material out of.
Okay, yeah.
It is terrible.
Yeah.
As I'm saying that, I'm trying to remember a very funny thing my daughter said, and I can't remember it.
Okay.
So I'm just...
I'll give you time to remember it. I was just thinking that, funny enough, you were saying about that first gig and stuff, and that's a bit like gambling addicts say that first big win they had, or the first win they had, they were literally always chasing that again.
Yeah.
That's why they become addicted to it, because they're
Exactly.
just like always chasing that win again. And I wonder if that's a bit like that with you, that app. Because I talk to a lot of comedians that are still doing comedy often say they've had a good first gig. Very rarely have I talked to any. I mean, I've talked to quite a few comedians now, and they've said, "Oh, the first gig was awful." There's normally been like the first gig was good, or not necessarily that it was like they won lots of hearts and minds, but they enjoyed the experience in some way. And maybe that's like it.
I wonder what would have happened if that first gig had been terrible.
Yeah.
It was full of new acts. It was a cosy experience of people being very supportive.
Yeah.
So it wasn't. It was going to be hard to die.
Do you remember any of the material?
Yeah. God, it was awful. It was all about. So first of all, it was about football. I think my first line. This is pathetic. I was so camp. I was like 27. I think I've said, football. I feel manly just saying the word, and I don't know why that was funny. But I used to do a whole thing. But so basically, it's a little bit. It feels really pathetic now. No wonder people would always go. Because I just always was into camp comedy, and I used England had just 1996. England had just done very well at the Euros. Yeah. And I was always going, footballers are. I don't know why I was doing this whole thing about football. I still remember something about going David Seaman, the goalkeeper going, and I. Sorry, this doesn't make any sense now. It isn't funny, but I would go like, they are very camp. You look at goalkeepers going, oi, oi, shouting and pointing at the right. Eyeliner, Incy, you've forgotten your eyeliner. It was all camp nonsense. It was a little bit that because but you always go with what the first thing that you think is funny about.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's finding that first thing that you think is funny, and it's funny as you age. And I've become nastier as I've got older. I don't want to be. I'm going to be a shocking, angry old man. There's a lot of middle-aged comics at the moment going, and having a go at woke. And you just stop being such an old man. Woke is, I'm not that woke, but I agree with loads of it. Do you know what I mean? We're all trying to navigate our way through. But that kind of, I'm going to make some easy jokes about trans people, piss off. It just makes you look like a grumpy old dick. And you've got to... I don't know, it makes you feel just sort of angry that the world is changing. And you're no different to that old right-wing granddad who's angry that the world is changing. The world is changing. Try and understand it. Maybe you can get jokes out of trying to understand it. But I have a bit of a problem with just the sort of writing off it. But I've got nasty. I try to keep my nastiness to my personal experience. And I'm jealous of young people. And I'm going, I'm always going, just enjoy it. It goes like that, And I'll always pick somebody out who's young. How old are you? What are you doing?
Yeah.
And they go, yeah, life's okay. Well, do you realise how bad it gets? Do you realise you're 24? Do you realise? Just enjoy. I've hurt getting up from about early 30s. You start hurting every morning. Oh, what's this shoulder? And now, actually, I'm sorry. I love Ed Burns. So I've quoted him twice. Talked about him twice. This thing. He does a thing going, you get an injury when you're old and go, yeah, well, that's that probably done then forever.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got a thumb that's hurt for a year. I've not done anything. I'm a man, so I'm an idiot and I've gone to the doctor. But I go, it's just got some arthritis or something.
Yeah.
But when you're young, you go, that'll pass. And it does.
Yeah. That's so true. I've got my knee in a bloody thing right now. And my friend came round over the weekend and injured her back from shivering in the cold and was lying on my floor like, I've proper done my back in. I was like, oh man, we're getting old.
Do you know the interesting things about backs? I had a great uncle who said this to me once, and he's turned out to be absolutely true. In my 40s, my back was terrible, really bad, and now my back's got better. And I think something fuses or nerves die or something.
Yeah.
Why does my back never go anymore? And I don't. Maybe I'm just not moving where I was or something.
You're like,
maybe
in
it's
one
just
position.
fused into one.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're now
just into the sitting position.
I know.
I'm interested about that whole woke thing. I mean, obviously, we don't bang on it too much, but it feels like obviously there's some rather successful comedians making quite a big song and dance about it with their new shows, and on obviously on social media. It feels like, I think you're right. I think it feels like there's it's appealing to a certain selection of society, which has always kind of been on the wrong side of the argument, and it feels like that maybe that is not necessarily a good thing.
Yeah, I think it makes me nervous when I see comics going, probably shouldn't say this, and their crowds going, say it, say it, because we can take it. I can't bear that kind of macho bullshit of going, say the shocking thing. We know the truth is it's more complicated. We know that there might be things that people, I mean, I will say the thing about people who are non-binary or trans or people who suddenly say, I want to be they. People going, oh, don't pronouns. You go, look, the people I know who say, who non-binary, for instance, or want to be she when he was, they're going, I know you might make mistakes. I know you might, people, they just want that identity recognised. And I know it seems strange because, God, my generation were literally as kids laughing at men in dresses. Not to their face, but there was a guy who used to walk down my road as a kid. And now you go, but think about how much these people kill themselves, how much the abuse they get, how laughed at they've been for years and years. And it is, you've got to fight. There is middle ground here. There's not just them. It's as a white middle class middle aged man, it's not hurting you that much to try and make an effort to understand rather than make cheap gags going bloody rubbish. This is it or because I don't think I think that's what the argument's become. It's pretending that we're under this massive attack from people who are just trying to be more understanding. And that really annoys me. And maybe there will be times when people make you feel shit. Maybe there are some people who do overreact. I think that's right. I think there might be people that go, I think somebody said this and they didn't mean that, or they didn't mean, and I think they didn't. I think stuff that, like people, I mean, I'm not saying it should still be on, but like Little Britain, people go, oh, it was fine doing that. It was blackface that were doing. Yeah, it was. But at the time, people almost thought we were post-racial. People thought we're so cool now that a white person can go and play a black character in a show, and we don't think it's offensive. And now they've gone, do you know what? I think it is offensive, and I think and it would put maybe a mistake made that people would be insensitive to it. It's not the end of the world that they might stop. They just are careful around that. I just don't believe we're being shut down in the way people think now. I think we're just trying to be really understanding. And I've done it. I've done jokes that make me go, oh, that was wrong. And just admitting that things do, that we change. Society changes. That's all it is. And stop being so frightened of it. And everybody understand each other. So people who are going, because I didn't understand non-binary, trans issues. There were loads of things where I go, I even once said to my ex-wife years ago, I said, I'm not sure where I stand on this big trans debate. She went, I'd stand well back if I were you. Which was, and I was going, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But just I just think if you can make jokes that are going, God, we just want to get this out there and say that, but also just be aware who you're hurting or what you're.
Well, and it almost feels like easy targets in some respect. Like it's easy to, maybe it's not, but like, because of the backlash, but I don't know, I just feel like there are other things you could make jokes about.
I mean, I guess when we were talking earlier about how being offended is a choice, I think it goes the other way, and actually being super against something is also a choice, because it comes to the point where it's like, why do you care? Like, society's changing, but does it really affect you? No.
Well, I suppose that idea around like, anything can be funny. Yes, to a certain extent, but then,
Oh, I think you could. I think if you make... The thing is, I do think people can go, I feel this, but I feel this because I might be a bit of an idiot. Do you know what I mean? I might be a bit... I mean, this is, I think, the defence... And I think there is a defence in it. God, this is so controversial. I'm not saying this isn't awful, but somebody like Jeremy Clarkson with that comment about Meghan Markle walking down and going, I want her naked. The joke was... I'm a horrific middle-aged, old man and he's making a Game of Thrones reference. Right. I can see what he was trying to do, and I'm not saying Jeremy Clarkson is not, but he wasn't going, I want Meghan. He wasn't. People take it in a certain way.
Yeah. Literal.
So I think if somebody was playing the I'm an old bigot, and they did almost like a character, I think that is. I think you can be funny. But I don't. I mean, the lines are. I mean, as I say, I'm finding my way as I have this conversation with you, and I'm just saying what instinctively I feel. But I know there's bits of me that I go, is that dodgy? Is that okay? Is that? I'll tell you, I've got a joke that I worried about that I said, well, it's not my experience, but I don't think it is dodgy. It's a joke about men my age dating younger women, and it sounds like I'm being very sucking up. Going, I love women in their 50s. There is nothing nicer on a cold winter's night to snuggle up in bed to someone having a hot flush. It's just, it's like a little hot water bottle. There's like, and I don't know if that's a bit offensive, because it is laughing at something that I'm not experiencing that lots of women going hot flushes are no, but you sort of go that it's sort. I don't know. I thought I'd put it on a podcast to find out if it is
fine.
Yeah,
offensive.
right. Could you email in? Unquestionable. So, I mean, I would argue that hot flushes and menopause is something almost every woman is going to experience. So it's not like you're picking at the low hanging fruit, like oh yeah. But I don't know. I would say women going through menopause might be more touchy to those things. So
I think so. But then
I say that as a man who's had hot flushes since I was 20. No, I know I don't understand the menopause. I'm not pretending I understand the menopause, but like now, after my coffee and feeling hot,
I've had hot flushes since I was 20. I'm fine. Get over it.
Yeah, I'm fine. Like, God, what?
It's just ascending,
but
isn't
I
it?
literally remember being at a friend's house and her mum and I went, oh, I'm getting a bit of a. I get like this. I start sweating and I just don't stop. She went, and I was 20 something and she was in her early 50s. Went, I get hot flushes as well.
You and me were like the same.
Oh man! But honestly, it's the point is that you've written that joke and you've thought, I don't know if this is fun. Is this offensive? I don't know. But it's not real life. Like you're not.
Yeah.
That's not a comment you're making to a mate in the pub. It's something that you're considering as like a career thing, And I think this is what people don't get. They think that comedians, what they're saying on stage to make people laugh, that they've written out and rehearsed and practiced, they think that it's just their actual opinions and what they actually think. And I think that's when people get really up in arms about it. Because, again, you choose to be offended. And if you believe that someone's genuinely making fun of cancer, you're going to choose to be offended about that. Oh,
exactly. People go, people, the sort of things Frankie Boyle says. And I love Frankie Boyle, but he's brutal. And that's exactly that thing of he's being a bit of a character in terms of the extremity of it. Going, I want, the sort of Frankie Boyle joke. I can't think of one, but something where he'd want somebody drawn and quartered and killed and murdered, and he'd say horrible things, and he doesn't. It's,
of course.
So you're right.
What happened with Frankie Boyle? Is he allowed on TV still?
Yeah, he does.
Did he get
on
cancelled?
BBC?
He does do TV
I think he's trying hard to be banned from TV.
He made that joke about the Queen, didn't he? And I thought that's when he got sort of like cancelled temporarily or something.
Well,
I don't know.
He was just taken off Mock the Week and got his own show.
Yeah.
But he's. But exactly. You've met Frankie Boyle.
No, I've never met.
I went to one of his shows, I think, years and years. I think it might have been at Edinburgh Fringe, and we mistakenly sat at the front row. And it was like he was literally went one by one all along the row, and we were sat there like, oh God, what's he going to say about? And then luckily he didn't say anything about me, but I made some joke about my friend.
He's very mild mannered. Very mild mannered.
Interesting.
Very quiet. Very often the most brutal. Jimmy Carr, charming man.
Really,
Lovely, sweet man on stage. He has such brilliantly childish heckle put downs. I still sometimes go, I just want to see how he talks about somebody else's mum.
Yeah.
So childish, Jimmy, because you're talking about that. It's always your mum. Why your mum's a bit of a slag? Or whatever. You go, this is what we did at 14, but it's still funny that you're doing it.
It is still funny,
and we know it's wrong. Exactly.
I still make your mum jokes to my friends. All the time. And the funny thing is, they can't do it back because I don't have a mum. And that's what makes it funnier.
Well, I think you might have done one about my mum.
I used to when my mum, I think I did tell my mum that I used to do this because I did have that thing, and I thought I had opportunity to do it. The guy went, "Your mum" or something. I went, I think my mum was 72 at the time. I was going, my mum's 7. She would love to shag you. And then I took it further. Went, is it serious? Are you coming for Christmas? And it was like,
can I call you daddy?
Yes, exactly. So it's just that thing of going. The logic of it is so mad.
Yeah.
It's just.
Is that in English? No, Americans do it too. Is that in English?
Yeah. It's just something
your
we
mum
started doing.
Who
as teenagers.
started that? I would love to know the first person that did that because they've started like a generational thing. It's amazing.
Well, Hal, we've really plumbed the depths with you today. We've gone from death to mum jokes.
Yes.
As we've done all the houses.
Full circle moments.
Yeah, thank you so much for your time. It's always lovely to talk to you,
thank
and
you.
lots of great insights. And thank you so much.
I will now drive off in the car going, oh, I've got some opinions on this.
Yeah, good.
I didn't realise what I thought about that.
So hopefully you won't be like, I shouldn't have said that. Was that too far?
Do you know the funniest thing is that after these is my youngest daughter at uni in Newcastle. I don't listen to podcasts because I can't bear myself. So I can't bear myself in the bed. I can't bear listening to myself. And she always does. So I always get my daughter going, listen to this. Oh, that was good. So so I will. Yeah, if I have said something wrong, she'll go, oh, you idiot. But she won't.
Well, if you want to give her a shout out, now's the time.
Yeah. Hi, Grace. Hope you enjoyed the podcast.
Get back to work.
Thank you, Grace. Yeah, work hard. Thanks, Hal.